Facebook and all that other stuff. And we just give God the glory, honor, and praise. And we even thank God for those who are watching later on after we finish recording this. So we give God the glory. We give God the glory. Well, we have been on an incredible journey over the past couple weeks. Actually, the past 2 weeks. This will be our third week, where the Lord has blessed us to be doing a series on love language. All right, love language. Because for so many of us, we honestly don't know what our love language is. But besides that, we don't know the love language of others, all right, that are in our life. But besides that, before we even get to know the love language of others, we actually have to love ourselves, all right? And for some of us, we don't love ourselves, or we don't know what we love, all right? We don't know how we love or anything like that. We just say that we love somebody, or we say that we love, ourselves or something like that. And in actuality, we don't. We don't. So over the past couple of weeks, we've been taking the time out to really dive into and deal with how did we get to the place where we are at right now? All right, because for some of us, listen, some of us are in a really messed up place. All right, we're trying to love a husband. We're trying to love a wife. We're trying to be in a committed relationship when we have hatred, we have bitterness, we have anger, we have animosity, we have strife. We throw in the side eye, we throw in shade, at people. And really, in all honesty, the one that we are mad at is actually ourselves. All right. And besides that, we are mad at somebody that did something to us when we were 6 years old, when we were 8 years old, when we were 10 years old, and we never got over it. And besides never getting over it, we never dealt with it. So all we did was we just kept it moving. We just kept it moving. We just kept it moving. And we just put something on top of something on top, another layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. And it's just like an onion, or it's just like a piece of sand inside of an oyster's shell. All right. Because what happens is the same thing with the onion is the same thing with an oyster or with a pearl. All right. It starts off as a piece of sand, but in order for it to stop irritating, the oyster actually wraps, all right, saliva around it, and it does that so then it will not irritate. All right. But you look at it with with the onion, the more layers you peel off of the onion, all right, the more pungent or the more powerful the onion actually gets, because you get to the core or you get to the root. All right. And when you start to get to the root of whatever the problem is, it is that much more difficult to deal with it. Why? Because it's so powerful. But besides that, we did not know that this was actually the issue. All right. We did not know that this was the problem. Why? Because there was so much built on top of it. There was so much that was covering it that when somebody did something, it reminded us of it. And we all of a sudden had to think back. All right. We had a, jump back moment. And it's like, listen, baby, listen, brother, listen, sister, listen, mother, listen, Linda, listen, Linda. All right. It's not them. It's actually you. You never dealt with the problem. You had an uncle that touched you. You had an aunt that touched you. You had a grandmother that touched you. You had a so-called daddy that touched you, or did something to you. Don't even put it in the sexual sense, but you put it in another way. They abused you, all right, verbally, all right? They abused you physically. They abused you financially. They abused you emotionally. And you just don't know, and you never dealt with it, and you just don't know how to deal with it. So that's what we have been dealing with over the past several weeks. How can you love somebody when you honestly don't know how to love yourself? All right. When you honestly don't know how to love yourself and you don't know how to be in love with yourself. All right. So continuing to move on, because last week, the second point that we dealt with is why are we nervous about love? All right. And why are we nervous about love? And I want to go ahead and say this. We cannot believe, for some of us, we cannot believe that someone is really this invested in us. We cannot believe that somebody is this, this interested in us. All right, we cannot believe it because we're like, how in the world, why is this person, talking to me like this? Why are they looking at me like this? Why do they want to spend this much time with me? And the reason why is because they actually love you. All right, because they look at it in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12, where it states, hatred stirreth up strifes, all right, but love covereth all sin, meaning that it doesn't matter what you have done, how many times you have done it, they're going to love you for who you are. That's it, point blank in the discussion. And they love you so much that they're going to love your faults, they're going to love your issues, they're going to love your shortcomings. They're going to love your proclivities. They're going to love every single thing. I mean, they're going to love all of this. That's what's going to happen. They're going to love all of it, all of the problems, everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the real ratchet. They're going to love all of it. All right. And nothing's going to separate them because we have been dealing with the main verse that we have been dealing with over the past couple of weeks is found in Mark chapter number 12, verse 31, where it states this, and the second is like this, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than this. And so we have to realize if you can't love yourself, or if you don't love yourself, how can you love somebody else? How can you honestly, truthfully be in love with somebody else? Because I stated before, and I'll state it again, if you say that you love somebody, I can't see how you can jump from one relationship, and you said you love them, you jump from one relationship to the next relationship, and there is no lag time in between. You just go from one to the next. I can't see how, you say that you're in love with somebody, but that ends up happening. That ends up happening because if you're in that, if you love them that much, there's a part of you that's going to ache when you are separated. When you are separated from that person, there is going to be an ache. There's going to be a pain that you feel in your life. There's going to be that time when you're like, a part of me is missing. All right. That's why, all right, not to be morbid, but when a husband or a wife loses their spouse, that's why it is so painful to them. All right. That's also why you end up hearing sometimes of the one that is left here actually dies. All right. Not too long after the spouse because they die of a broken heart. All right. There is a massive piece of them. All right. That is missing. And they do not know how to, all right, to fill that piece. All right. They don't know how to do it. And the only thing and the only one that's going to fill that void is God. That's the only one that's going to help them with that part. So with that much of an introduction, I want to move to our first question. And I'm going to need somebody and somebodies to come off of mute. And let's deal with this first question that we got on tonight. All right. Which is this? Is yelling showing love? Is cursing out love? And is beating up a person love? If it's not love, then why do we think of it as love? Let me read it to you again because that was a whole lot in that question. And it should come up on the screen. Is yelling showing love? Is cursing somebody out? Cursing your wife out, cursing your husband out, cursing your child out. Is that love? Is beating the person up, beating up your husband, beating up your wife, is that love? If it's not love, then why do we think of it as love? Somebody come off of mute and let's dig at this question.
Some people may think that it's love because of what they saw.
Okay. Some may think of it as love because of what they saw.
I believe if a person takes that kind of love, they don't love themselves.
Okay.
Because if you love yourself, if I don't care who's cursing, and I was a cursor, but it degrades a person when you curse them. It takes something away from them. And if you love yourself, you don't want that. So if you're not loving yourself, you'll take that abuse because it's abuse.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Someone else?
Yeah, I think someone said it already. That might be the only way they have ever received love or what they perceive as to be love, because if that's how, say, like their parent or whoever was over them, if that's all they've seen and all they know is the yelling and the cursing, they might take that as, okay, that's how I show love to someone else because I'm passionate about what I'm saying. So I got to yell and I got to curse. Otherwise, they don't think I love them. You know, that could be how they perceive it in their mind.
How they perceive it in their mind. All right. Someone else.
Yeah, Pastor, I believe it becomes the norm if you grow up in an atmosphere like that, in a home life like that. It becomes the norm, and you think that's part of love, to communicate in that kind of way, until you grow up and you learn for yourself and know that that is not the case, and then you change, like they say, break that chain.
You can't just, and just to add on to what you're saying, you can't just break the chain. You got to destroy the chain.
Destroy it, yeah.
Because, and the only reason why I say destroy it is because anything that's broken 9 times out of 10 can be fixed.
Yeah.
It can
and
be
on the flip side of that, I was going to say, like growing up as a child, seeing certain things and hearing certain things, verbal and physical. And no, it was not my mother and father, but I was still young and I was around others while they was at work, you know. So I knew immediately that I was not going to deal with that. I have not ever dealt with that in a relationship. I don't plan on dealing with that because I've already seen how it can react, you know, not react. I feel how it can blow up. It can start off real little as an argument, and then before you know it, they fist fighting, or they just cursing them out in front of us. You know, it's just, I knew I didn't want no parts of that growing up. Period.
Right.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah, I knew I didn't want to have anything to do with that, but I got to be able to have my own family. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe like what Sister Kathy D said, it's what's become the norm. And when we talk about norm, what's norm from you is not norm for somebody else. So even though we may bash somebody who's like that, if that's their norm, that's their norm. And the people who deal with them because they come from the same normal background. You can get 2 couples together that they curse at each other all day long. That's their norm. And you might not like it because that's not the norm that's inside your house or the norm of how you want to be treated. But to them, this is normal. We curse each other out. We call each other names. We kid around and play with each other or whatever. That's that key point, the norm of how they've been raised up. It's like you're not going to get in a relationship with somebody that was brought up to their norm is 100% opposite than what your norm is. You will forever be clashing, and you will forever be trying to change that person into your norm that they're saying that's not my norm. And if you love me for me and for who I am, then how dare you try to change who I am because I don't fit your social norm.
But then also I would flip that
The whole
question.
thing is growth. Everybody got to grow. You know, you got to see what you're doing is wrong.
But I was also going to say, I would flip that question to say that if you love me like you say you do, you will end up making the necessary changes. I'm not going to change you because I can't change you. You got to do the work to change yourself. I'm still going to love you regardless, but there got to be some changes made, my sister. because you're not going to sit up there and keep chucking this water bottle at me upside my head. You're not going, you may have done that last year, but that ain't happening this year. That's not happening this year. You may have smacked me in my forehead last year, but I'm a changed man now. My forehead was not made for you to smack. It may have gotten bigger, whereas my forehead is all the way back here, but that does not give you more space for you to go and smack like this. There's got to be a change. There got to be a change. And so in all of that, there has to be growth. There has to be growth. I want to read to you what some people put online. Brother Isham, he put online on YouTube, he said, when you intentionally hurt another person, it's not love. Sister Sharon Peters put, some people sabotage their relationship because they don't know how to receive the love shown to them. All right, which is true, which is true. Also, let me see, anybody else has something that they want to add to this question?
I think self-esteem plays a big part. You gotta love, like what you said before, love yourself. And a lot of people don't know how to love themselves. So they expect the love that they get from the other person to be sufficient. And it's not. It's not, especially if you have two people that are not whole themselves. You got two half of people trying to make one whole thing, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And when you said,
go ahead,
as you
Mother Shula.
people who, as Minister Larnell said, it becomes the norm for them. But even the norm tears you down and destroys something inside of you. And when you come to like growth they're talking about, you realize, and I think that was his sister said that she wasn't going to have anything like that. But if it, like she said, if it's your norm and you used to this, when you see there's a better way, or when you come into Christ and there's a better way, if the person love you enough, they'll try to change, and you'll see them trying to change.
Yeah.
You'll see the change in them. And words hurt. Words hurt. And even if you say, when we was growing up, oh, sticks and stones may break my bones, but that's not true. Words hurt. And if you're trying to work on yourself, the devil is going to bring those words back to you and make you feel like you're worth nothing. And so that's still part of loving yourself, because we all worth something.
Oh yeah, we are all worth more than just, we worth, listen, I don't know about y'all, but I'm worth a lot. I'm worth a lot.
Me too. Me too.
I'm worth,
that's why I didn't get married again, Pastor. I didn't get married again when my husband died, because I believe within my heart that no one is going to be him. So I'm going to make myself miserable. I'm going to make the other person miserable, because I want to be treated like he treated me. So I'm satisfied. Who the sun set free is free indeed.
And listen, and I use your example. I use those words all the time when I'm talking to a couple. I use you all the time when you state that, because that to me is like one of the greatest statements ever, because you made it plain before. You was like, if I get married again, all I'm going to do is compare them to Mickey. And there's nobody that can compare to Mickey Shula for me. Mickey was it. And that's what I tell couples. I was like, you got to grow. All right, grow to that mentality. All right, grow to that thought process, to like, listen, I'm going to baby him to the place where ain't nobody going to be able to love him the way that I loved him. And nobody's going to love her the way that I loved her. It's not possible. It's not possible. Anybody else?
I would like to say it's all about the perception of the person. I know people were talking about that. Like, if you feel someone yelling at you, if you grew up with someone yelling at you or cursing at you and you feel that's love, you're going to accept it. If you're looking for attention, no matter which way it comes, you will accept it. But until you begin to love yourself and understand that you are worth more than that, then you'll stop that from happening. But people who scream or curse, sometimes they're only doing it because that's what they were taught, and that the people who are receiving it are those who are manipulated, and those who, you know, we look from the outside like, how can somebody take cursing, or how can somebody get beat up time after time? But like we all are stating here, it is their normal. That's their way of receiving, whether it's good or bad attention. They're receiving that type of love, and it takes some serious deliverance and serious self-love reflection to come out of a state of like that, because we're looking at it like, how can they have someone curse them out? It's degrading. But sometimes people do it. Now, this is, people do stuff on purpose to receive that kind of attention, because it is some kind of love that they're receiving. So it sounds weird to us, but people actually, how can I say it? They
It's an
find the
addiction.
energy, they live off of that, because
It's an
that's the
addiction.
only love, that's the only love they know. And from looking from the outside, it looks weird, but they receive love that way. And until they realize, like we are talking about growing up in self-love, and someone showing them there's the other way, they don't see any other way. That's the only way that they can receive love. So it is their normal. I mean, I've been in situations like that where it did feel normal until one moment when I woke up and looked at myself in the mirror, and the Lord said, "You're going to die in this." And I said, "Wait a minute, wait, whoa, this is not where I'm supposed to be." Because when you're in a dark place, you can't see the light. That seems like love until the Lord really showed you that this is not the place for you, and that you can get out. And once you get out, you won't take that from nobody. You set that straight, and you no longer will receive that type of abuse, because it's manipulation. When you think about pimps and people who are young girls who are pimped out, because it's the manipulation that they're getting from the pimp that makes them feel that this is love when it's not. And they can't leave, because it is a mind control. We talk about how the enemy works on the mind, but that's just what it is. It's just so, it's so toxic. It grips you, and they just do what they feel is best. What they've learned is what they do. So they yell, they curse, they scream, they beat you up, because in their mind, that's what they saw their parents do. In their mind, that's what they seen on TV. So that's love to them. So they're just doing what they know. We don't have grandparents no more. We don't have people who sit down with people. Like back in the day, we used to see people fighting on the street. We used to break it up. Not any longer. You watch two people fighting, people getting beat up. We just walk right by, and we don't even pay any attention. We don't break anything up. We don't really show genuine love now. We're very, like, to ourselves, isolated. It's very superficial. It's not genuine and authentic. So they don't know how to show that, you know?
And Sister Cannon, she deleted it, but I'm gonna say it because I caught it with my eye. She put in there thug love. And it's
she right. Thug love is what's popping right now. That's what's over. That's what's going on. That thug love is what makes somebody feel like they got power, and that's what we're talking about. That love right there. Yeah.
And because you also have to realize that sometimes the reason why, whether you talk about whoever is the one that's doing the abuse, whether you talk about physical, verbal, or whatever, the reason why they're doing that is because sometimes they have an underlying issue or an underlying problem in themselves. All right. They have baby mama issues, or they have mama issues, mama abandonment issues, or they have daddy issues, you know, something like that. And they are projecting it onto, all right, a person. All right. And sometimes the person that they end up getting hooked up with is somebody that's already come out of an abusive relationship, or was in a verbally, mental, physical, emotional, financial abusive situation. So they end up getting drawn together. And so if you already have that type of spirit, how can you expect somebody else to come out of, all right, what you are already bringing into? If two people are both the same way, how do you expect either one of them to really be open and honest, to hear the voice of God, to come out of that situation? No, because they both, like we were stating, and like it's been alluded to, they both believe that this is the norm. That if you love me, you're going to smack me upside my head. If you love me, you're going to make me crawl around on all fours and bark like a dog. If you love me, you're going to take this iron and sit up there and burn me, so then I can be like, no, mommy, no, not the iron, mommy. You know, like you do on Penny on Good Times. We think that stuff, you know, was just a TV show, but in actuality, that was real life. That was real life for some people. So Anyone else before I move on to the next question?
Yeah, Pastor, sometimes I feel that, all of us are prodigal people. And all of us on a regular basis have to come to our senses, whether it's subconsciously or whether it's consciously. We get caught up, as it's been said, about norms. It's been said about, being caught up in conditions of things that we've seen. And none of those things can change until the perpetrator or even the victim say, you know what, enough is enough. What am I doing? What do I want? I deserve more. I deserve better. But it comes down to how much, like it said, how much do we love ourselves to allow ourselves to perpetrate on somebody like that and know that it's wrong, and to receive that type of treatment, knowing that it's wrong, but we still have to come to our senses at some point and realize that, yeah, my value is a lot more than this. I can't do that to them. And the person should be saying, I'm done. I'm never going to let that happen to me anymore. So it's that prodigal nature that we have, that every day we're going to be going through things that we're going to say, if I could have, would have, should have, I could have did this better, and we just have to get to a point where we can do better.
And we also have to get to the point too, where we have to want it enough that we're going to make the change. But it also has to be a place for anybody that's watching it, where you can't wait until the last, you can't listen. Don't wait, because the next time that your wife goes off on you may end up being your last time.
Yep.
And I'm flipping it because fellas, a lot of times people don't realize that there are husbands that do get abused. There are boyfriends that do get abused. And just to let you know, listen, you can't wait, all right, till the next time. It's like, no, get out now. Get out now. Don't say, well, that was a mistake. They didn't mean to do it. No, this is the second, third, fourth, fifth time. How many broken ribs do you have to have? How many black eyes do you have to have? How many times do you have to drop it like it's hot just to get some money to go buy something to eat? Really, don't wait. All right, Minister Frazier, she put online, just like when we know better, we do better. When we are when we are loved better, we will be better able to both give and receive love better. Wow, that was a whole lot right there. That was a whole lot. We will be better able to both give and receive love. All right. Anyone else before I move on to the next question?
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, go ahead.
When Minister Smith was talking, it just made me think about something. And as people, we have to be able to diagnose how to be able to help people. And what I mean by that is what she was saying, that people look to be treated a certain way. And when you look up masochist, it's a person who derives sexual gratification from their own pain or humiliation. So a person who's like that is always going to be looking to be humiliated, is always going to be looking to be in pain. And we're looking at it as that other person is doing something so bad to them, is because we haven't even diagnosed that that person is looking for that. And when they don't get it, then they don't feel like their love is because of what's inside of them and how they view that they want that love to be presented to them.
Right. And also, before we go off mute over here, most of the time when you see somebody, so I was raised up in an abusive home, in a home where we was just cussed out. Every other word was cuss words. But I think, and then I turned around and I spoke to my children like that. They wasn't abused, but I did cuss. Every other word was a cuss word because that's what I knew. So I think a lot of that is generational. It goes from just generation to generation. And until, like if I hear a young lady, now my favorite word was F-bombs. Now I hear a young lady now saying curse, and I'd be looking at her like, oh my God, is that what I sounded like? Wow, but when I was doing it, it was fine. That's how I got attention. You heard what I said. So when I felt like if I wasn't cussing you out, you wasn't listening to me. I think that's really how I felt now that we sitting here talking about
emphasis on it.
Yeah, I had to put some emphasis on it. But, when you get delivered, you realize like, oh God, I sounded like that, So when I hear a young lady cursing now, I'd be like, oh my God, would she shut up? It does. Yeah. Sometimes it comes right out like, shut up. You realize how you sound, but yeah, you hear it later once you get delivered. Yes.
Yeah. Elder Peyton.
Okay, I had to come off mute. What everybody was saying, just about everybody just said what I kept trying to get in and say. But the other side to that, that's how a lot of people end up dying in that situation, because they have grown up with it so much, or they have been abused so much that when they get hit, smacked, or whatever, to them, they really believe that that person loved them. So they're not going to be trying to look to see how to get out of this because of where their mindset is. And a lot of times their mind might not even begin to change until they end up meeting somebody and they see a difference in them. But as long as they keep with the same situation that they're in, they may not never see it. And for somebody that's like on the outside looking in, or it could be your friend, and you try to talk to them, the inside of them is going to buck up against you, because they will probably shut down because this is what they're used to. Now, for me, I'm just telling you straight up, I'll be locked up somewhere. That's just the bottom line. Y'all wouldn't even see me. I don't even know if I would have had kids. Because that would not have took place. My kids can vouch for that. No, not sir. And I'm too old to be trying to put up with something like that now.
Lord Jesus.
I'm done.
Pastor,
Yes.
this kind of reminds me of that Eve song, Love is Blind. And it will take over your mind. What you think is love is really not. You need to elevate and find. Yes, people do. When you're looking from the outside looking in, also what I found personally with looking at like a couple of my friends that were in situations, not abusive, but in situations being manipulated and stuff like that, people have a different tolerance level. And sometimes they have to get to that point where they have no choice but to walk away. But until they get there, we can talk to them about it, but you can't badger them about it, because that'll push them back towards it if you badger them about it. But if you're praying and you're like, just coaxing them along, you're still being there to support them. But I mean, to a certain extent, because you can't support what they're in, but you're trying to support them, like encouraging them that this is wrong, but not badgering them, they'll eventually get out when they reach that level. But they have to sometimes they have to reach it on their own.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Eve, and when you started saying the lyrics, the first song that popped into mind was a Mary J. Blige song, No More Drama. No more drama. Because you got to get to the place. Yeah, I see you bopping your head, Smith. Yeah, you got the song going in your head. Because you, like you said, you got to get to the place where enough is enough. Enough is enough, and you got to, and like I said, you have to be there to be that support for the person, and you got to be there, to let them know it's like, listen, but you got to let them know it's like, listen, I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to stand, but it's up to you as to whether or not, how long you're going to stay in it, because we can give them all the tools, but if they don't use those tools, to, to do what is necessary, then we're wasting our time. We're wasting our time, because one of the things that I wanted to continue to remind everybody is that, listen, you can, like we said, be hearers of the word, but not doers. All right. We can be doers, but not hearers. All right. We got to remember that people will not always respond. They will not. We can't want for them something more than what they would want for themselves. They got to want it. They got to want it, because if we do what is necessary to pull them out, then after a while, they're going to end up going back to it. And it's not even just dealing with abusive relationships, but it's also dealing with any type of addiction. Any type of addiction. When they are tired, as Minister Geist was talking about it earlier, when he's talking about you have your prodigal moment. When you get to that moment, all right, the prodigal son, it says, when he came to himself, all right, same thing. When Samson, he got to that place, he had his moment. And he's like, Lord, if you let me, give me strength this one last time. That was his prodigal moment. All right, you look at Paul when he was on the road to Damascus. That was his prodigal moment. That was his moment right there to say his epiphany, his run to, or to say, put it in another way, plain English, that was his run in with God when he was sick and tired of being tired and sick. That was the moment right there. That was the moment right there. Now, does anybody have something else that they want to say? Because then I'll move on to the next question.
I just want to say, Pastor, this topic is so needed, and it's so and we're on YouTube too, correct?
Yes, and on Facebook.
Well, Pastor, before you invite somebody into Christ, give them our number, because with YouTube and Facebook, you don't know who's going to listen to this.
True.
We don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a whole lot of energy, and that was a big screen. Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, because I know I look like I'm about to explode, and the reason why, and you just hit the nail on the head, because it just popped into my head. That's why I had to scream, because one of the things that is so prevalent right now over the past 2 years is actual abuse. Because of people being locked up to a certain degree, being locked up at home with their husband or with their wife or with their kids, all right, or with their grandmother or with their grandfather, or just being at home. And it's so stressful right now that they don't realize that, listen, you could work on a loving relationship right now instead of being in an abusive relationship, because you have the time now to really look at what's going on, really look at, why am I this way? Why is this happening? Instead of trying to cope with, all right, your personal demons, all right, by going to the liquor store or going and getting some weed from Junebug. Or even for some that's very sophisticated, you don't have to go and get that. You'll just go and grab some of your Percocet and you just use that and self-medicate. Because that's one of the biggest things right now during this pandemic that has been going on. There has been a lot of domestic violence. It has not been put out in the news a whole lot, but there is a lot of it going on. There is a lot of it going on. And the reason why is because, like we stated, people don't really love themselves. And they don't realize it. They don't realize it. They think what they're doing is love, but in actuality, it's not. Now, I know I keep saying, does anybody else have anything else to say before I go to the next question? And I sound like I'm repeating myself. It doesn't matter to me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, so I do. So I'm just listening to what everyone is saying, and I am in agreement with the overall consensus, right? But I do believe that love for everybody is different. And unless the person who is in it is expressing that they don't feel loved for us who are on the outside, then we should always remain respectful, because we don't know the inner workings of why their loved one, or why they are the individual being the aggressor or the yeller or the screamer. So even though we're talking about helping them get out, or they need to come to a realization, sometimes, just like Minister Tia said, that she didn't even realize how she sounded using those words and that language. But for her, that didn't mean she didn't love her children, or that she didn't love herself. You get what I'm saying? That we all have to be respectful. I don't think that that's what love should look like. These jokers in here, the kids will probably get a yell down before the end of the week. You know, I love them dearly, but I do understand the concept. But we do always have to be we always have to be respectful of someone's literal overall situation, because everyone will come and love different. Like I've known, because I have a lot of male friends who've never hit a woman, but got with a woman who's been abused her life and seen abuse, and they pull that out of this person who done popped them upside the head. And it was really out of character for the individual doing that. So it kind of coincides with what Minister Lionel said and Minister Smith, that some people seek that as love for them. And then at some point, if they even get to that point, to realize that maybe that wasn't the best. I just think that everybody's love looks different, and not that it's the love of God, obviously, because that's not how we should love, but maybe they don't know better. And it doesn't mean that they don't like love the person. I guess I know that sounds weird to say, but it doesn't mean they like everyone else said, that they just don't know any better. Right. So
And
when we're on the outside, like in order to pull somebody out, they have to give up their hand. So if someone's asking for help, that's different. But if they're not asking for the help, you just pray for them until they do.
yeah, and that's why we said when they come to themselves, they got to come to themselves. I've seen and heard, too many instances where you have had somebody where they have an emotional response, but then all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And we like having, yeah, and all this other stuff. But then 5 days later, 10 days later, a month later, they're going right back to wherever they were at, because they did not come to themselves. They did not come to themselves. They did not realize it. All right. And we can teach and we can model all that we want. And we can, do all types of seminars. But it's not until they come to themselves and realize that's not love. What has been happening to me, that's not love. I have to crawl around on the ground, like I said, with all fours and bark like a dog and all that other stuff. And he's humiliated. That's not love. We can tell them that. We can show it to them. But until they get it here, like it says, a sounding brass, tinkling cymbal. That's all it is. It's going in one ear, going out the other ear. That's all it is. That's all that happens with it. They have to come to an understanding themselves. They have to do it. And even for some of us that are in the church who are hiding, because if you think it's going on only out there in the world, nah, there's some saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost, filled, fire, baptized people in the house of the Lord that's doing the same stuff. They may not be physically abusing, but they are definitely verbally abusing, and they are definitely emotionally abusing, even in the house of the Lord. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna ask the next question, if that's all right, because I think that's like my ninth time. The next question is this, and it's going to come up on the screen. How is someone having a terminal illness love? How is someone having a terminal illness love? Somebody can come off of mute and answer that question.
Can you say the question one more time?
Yep. How is someone having terminal illness love?
Very fragile.
That's what it's about.
Mother Shula, you gotta come off of mute. I saw you doing all of this.
I was trying to, Pastor. You're saying if somebody's terminally ill, how can they show love?
Or how can the illness be love?
How can the illness be love?
Yep. If somebody's going to die,
Yeah.
and there's no way to get out of it, how can that be love?
It'll cause change immediately, I think. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
all right.
That sounds like
I was
divine
thinking you
disruption to me.
Go ahead, Mother Shula, and then Minister Geis.
I was thinking that you were saying that a person is terminally ill, how can they show love?
No.
Yeah,
the person
yeah. You saying how can terminal illness show love?
How can that be love?
Yeah, how can that? Yeah, no, I had
Minister Geis.
To me, that sounds like divine disruption. It sounds to me like God will use a terminal illness to bring some people subject to his will. Sometimes whatever our plight might be in life, it could be a terminal illness, it could be a car accident, but whatever our appointment with death is, God will use it for his glory to turn people around because he loves them, and he wants people that will not showing love to pay attention to show love. So it could be, like I said, maybe divine disruption, where God will use a life or a sickness or an illness. Because how many times do families get together? Funerals.
Come on, dig at it. Dig at it.
Funerals, weddings. Other than that, we never hear from family members. But we talk about, oh, we got to get together. We got to get together. And then when somebody's gone, is the time we get together. When that time passes, we forget to stay together. So I think that the illness could be like divine disruption.
Go ahead.
I think I'm getting your question now because my husband's first wife died suddenly. He went to work, and by the time they got to him, she was gone. And he used to tell me, I used to say, okay, you love me. Okay. And he used to say, I don't want to be able to tell you I love you and you don't hear me. And by his first wife dying, and he felt like he didn't express and he didn't do certain things, that grief led him to, if I ever get married again, I'm not going to repeat that cycle. Is that what you're asking?
That's a nice way to answer it. That's a nice way to answer it. Nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sometimes we can have terminal illness, but it's not physical. It could be spiritual or emotional, like we are dying inside, like we're killing ourselves because we don't want to release things, or we're badgered and bruised and don't love. So are you talking about that type of terminal illness, or
that's
physical
good.
terminal? Okay, because I was thinking, yeah, we're dying inside because we don't want to, we don't want to love, or we don't know how to love, so we're just dying inside. So that's kind of where my mind went. That type of terminal illness.
That's a nice twist on the question. I like that. and not physical, all right, not physical illness, but it's the ill on the inside. I like
Yes,
that.
spiritual.
Yes,
Spiritually dying.
yes, I like that. And Minister Geist, just want to let you know that Minister Frazier said you took her answer. But no, I like that. I like that.
So I was
Oh,
gonna say, sorry.
no, go
So
ahead.
with my grandfather, my mother's father, I'm thinking that's probably what caused his drastic change, because the type of man that he was before he had a terminal illness, before he passed, he was the complete opposite of how he was after getting sick. He honestly got a chance to get a relationship with the Lord. He had a chance to repatch things with my grandmother and his daughter. You know, it's a lot of ways that it can affect you that way. That's what I thought you was originally saying anyway.
Mm-hmm. I like the way people are interpreting it. Minister Nickens?
Yes, I can go back and look at my niece. Think about the when she had died, when she was dying, and not even realizing how bad she was with a terminal illness. And when she gave me a call telling me what's going on, I'm here, and I didn't let her know. I was like in the back crying, trying to encourage her, read scriptures. But in that illness, she's encouraging me, showing me the love. Say, Aunt Kat, I'm fine. I'm all right. God got me. I know where I'm going. She's encouraging me. Here, I'm trying to encourage her and lift her up. But even in her terminal illness, the love that she had for me to let her, even though she didn't want me to tell her family, but she's showing love to me as an aunt and saying that, Aunt Kat, I'm going to be fine. And she's telling me how God got her, how God is with her, and she's going to be all right, not knowing that she was so near to death, not knowing the next week she's going to be gone. But she already knew it. But here, when I'm thinking that, I can encourage her and lift her up, she's encouraging me and lift me up. But through that terminal illness of showing love, knowing that she had the love of God in her, and let me know that God is with her. And because of what she learned, what I had taught her in the past, she had knew. She ain't going to say, I got you. You showed me. You did this. You did that. But because the love that she had in her heart for Christ, it let me know that even in this terminal illness, the love is still there. The terminal illness even gave her more love. She said, Aunt Kat, I don't do this no more. I don't do that no more. I stopped doing this. I stopped doing that. But I know I made it right with God. I made peace with God and everything. But through all that, even in her terminal illness, and after that, I was able to tell my family what she said and the love that she had, the love she had for all of us, knowing that God is taking care of her and she's going to be all right, even in terminal illness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometime when that's what I was thinking at first with what Minister Nickens is saying, when somebody is dying and they let the family know that God has got them and they are right, it gives the other living family, like she said, it gives them encouragement, and it helps with the grief process.
Mm-hmm.
It helps with the grief process of my daughter wasn't worried. She told me step by, I never knew she was dying, though, but she told me who to get, what time to get them, what time, and person by person, so she could say what she had to say to them. And and she was saying, Mom, don't worry about me. I'm all right. I'm already all right. Don't worry about me. But I didn't know what she was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Even ministering to somebody that just lost their son. And she said, well, I know God. And why wasn't I warned? God is not going to warn you something like that. Your mind can't take that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take that. So that, I believe, when somebody's on that, when I see this happening in families and my own family, that's a great love. That's a great love.
Yep. Because you got to realize, and I love the variety of answers and the variety of angles, all right, from which everyone came from. Because like you look at it, hey, the terminal illness, sometimes, like we had already alluded to, it causes somebody to show even more love than what they were doing before. All right. They were ornery. They were evil. I mean, just straight evil. They were like this one lady that was in my building. She was so evil. I said that she was the mother of Satan. That's how evil she was. Even though that is not possible, but I declared and decreed that she was the mother of Satan. That's how evil she was. Now, as far as I know, she did not get any nicer when she was dying. But depending on the person, they're on their dying bed. They know that they're transitioning. They become the sweetest. A lot of times they become the sweetest person. Sometimes they do. Because realizing that, you know what? I only got a few days left. I only got a month left. You know what? It's not worth being nasty any longer. Let me call up those who I need to get things straight with. Let me get stuff straight in my life. Let me say my goodbyes. Let me let people know it's like, listen, I did this to myself. Let me tell you, I love you so much, so I'm not going to let you try to do or let you do the same thing that I did. So let me tell you a thing or two. Let me tell you a thing or two about what I have done in my life. I kept all these secrets to myself, but let me tell you, because I want to warn you, I don't want you to end up in this bed like I'm in right now. I don't want you to have to deal with this. I brought this on myself. There's nothing else that I can say. I did this. Please stop praying. I did this myself. I wasn't the one that was paying attention. I was the one that, let somebody abuse me. I was the one that abused myself. Forget letting somebody else abuse me. I was the one that abused myself. I was the one that allowed somebody to curse me out. And because of all of that, now I have, whether you talk about spiritually, emotionally, or physically, I have this terminal illness. And from that, I want to make sure that you don't do the same. Want to make sure. Now, does anybody have anything they want to say before I ask the next question? Because it looks like obviously we're going to go past our time. Okay. The next question is this. How can tough love be love when it is tough? It's a play on words. How can tough love be love when it is tough? Somebody come off of mute.
Okay. I'm gonna say tough love with a teenager. I'm gonna use Caleb as an example. Tough love for me is sometimes I have to get a little bit more stern or not answer his every call or whimper or whatever, because I have to show you messed up. You got to learn from this. You have to grow from this. And learning and growing from this means I can't be there at every fall or everything. You got to get up and learn. Explaining this all wrong, I feel like I am. You gotta as a teenager, for a teenager, I guess I have to step back a little bit and kind of let him make his own mistakes and not be there every time he falls or whatever. He has to learn to pick himself up. It sounds harsh, but you got to do it. You got to do it. Otherwise, they're going to think that there's that parachute or that net that's always going to be there when they fall. And sometimes with life, that net or parachute's not there. So you have to let them fall to learn how to get up to be able to stand. That's what I'm trying to say.
Don't worry. We knew you was going to get to it eventually. Anyone else? Go ahead, Mom.
Pastor. I want to say with family members, when you have, like that Uncle Joe or Aunt Dot or somebody coming to the family reunion and they're going to be acting crazy. Now, you love them in every way and all, but you have to, my mother used to say, handle them with a long handle spoon. You have to be distance. I can love you from afar. Because when you want to try to witness to them, they don't want to hear that, but they want you to, sit and talk with them, and they cursing and all kind of stuff like that. See, but you don't want to come and listen to me when I'm trying to witness and, lead you to Christ, who can stop all this wildness in your life that you keep on fussing about. But then, you just have to say, I love you, but we can't be hanging together. We can't be chilling together.
Yes. Yes. All right, mommy.
I was going to say, you said tough love. You look at a teacher who is tough on a student, that brings out the best in that student. Even though they're mean, it seems to you that they're mean and tough. They see your potential, so they bring out the best in you, and you can thank them later on. Just like Aunt Doris, she was a tough nurse in the hospital, but she loved her patient and she brought out the best in them. Also, I was told too, as being a tough parent, you're not being mean. You see that child and you bring out the best in them. You're hard on them, not saying you don't love them and you got to treat them this way, because they could be stiff-necked and hard-hearted too. So you have to be tough with them in love, but you're tough. You expect the best. But when they grow up to be adults, they can honestly say, seriously, if it was in love, I can thank my mom and dad. They were tough on me, but I see why. This is the man I am now because of what I was taught by them. So it could be good for them, but in a way for them it's bad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's a tough thing to learn. But when you see the results when they grow up to be young adults, you can honestly say, you know what, you didn't pull no punches with them. You loved them in spite of what they were doing, but they can only come back to you and say, I thank you. I thank you, you were tough, because now I understand what you was trying to do and what you was trying to teach me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Anyone else?
I have one, Pastor. I think that tough love is love because it's honest, right? So if you're having tough love, then you're being honest with someone, and that's what makes it difficult. If you're really being honest about a situation and you're telling someone that you love, you may be afraid of their reaction. So it makes it difficult to be completely honest about something to someone that you love, even though that information is necessary for them to have, to toughen them up, to grow them up, like everyone else was saying, but to really be honest. And I think that's what that can make it difficult or tough. But I think it is love.
I'm going to read what Brother Barry put online. He said, tough love is because it's hard for you and the other party. Enabling can be the worst love in some situations, especially if you love someone who is in addiction or who has an addiction. Because see, what we're alluding to, some people don't realize that I love you enough that I'm going to put you out of my house and I'm going to change the lock. Why? Because one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to die and I'm going to go to jail, or you're going to get beat up real bad and I'm going to go to jail. So I love you enough to put you out of my house and pray that God will keep you while you are out of my house so that you will learn. Also, tough love is when you love somebody enough, as Sister Felita said, and as some have alluded to, that you will let them fall. Because in saving them, you are enabling them.
Yes,
and they will not learn the lesson. Being a soft teacher, you are enabling them, as the school system has done on many occasions, just pushing students pushing kids through. You do not love the students. You're just pushing them through. That's not love. Love is like, listen, I love you enough that it's going to hurt me to leave you behind a year. I love you enough that I'm going to whoop you, because if I whoop you, I'm going to be able to stop because I love you that much. But if you keep going the route that you're going, you're going to get whooped by a cop, and I'm going to have to be following behind your casket.
That's right.
Because the cop's not going to have any type of restraint at all. And especially when you think that you are God's gift on this earth, and you think that you got it all going on, and can't nobody stop you, can't nobody hurt you. You're going to end up finding out, you know, that there's somebody that you're going to have to answer to. So you can either answer to me and receive the grace and the mercy and the Holy Spirit restraining me, or you can deal with the cop or somebody else who's not going to have any type of restraint whatsoever. Sister K put on there, tough love is love when it is tough, because you care about the good of the other person. It's tough because it does not feel good, but it's right for the receiver. Tough love is also when you don't give your child everything that they ask for. When you make them actually work for something, when you actually make them save for something. Because right now we have too many young people that feel that they are entitled. And even some of us as parents, we got it mistaken because we think that they are entitled, because we sit up there and say, well, I didn't get this when I was younger, so I'm going to make sure they get it. Wrong idea. Wrong idea. Because if you do that, you're going to end up opening up a can of worms that you was not expecting to open up. You got to realize that it has to be tough love. Because sometimes, and a lot of times, tough love brings out the best. Does anyone have anything they want to add before I go to my closing point?
I would say go ahead, Mama Schuler.
Felita, I salute you, because we don't realize that we are raising boys to be men. And then when they can't handle surf because their mother is holding them up, when they get married, they can't be the man of their house because they always had somebody, oh, it's all right, baby, it's all right. You're not raised, those little boys, one day, you hope they be somebody's husband and be able to hold a household and take care of his family. And I think sometimes as Black women, we forget that. And then when they in trouble or whatever, you're looking like, just somebody marry and take him off. No, I'm not raising your son when you should have raised him.
Yeah. Lita?
I was going to say that tough love is the courage to say no and stand firm on it. I think that's the challenge of tough love, is the ability to actually say no and stand firm on it. Because even with Caleb, I can still fall back and be like, okay, you know what? I got it. No, I have to actually stand firm on it and literally stand firm on it. So it's actually the courage and the ability to do it.
Yep. I think Minister Lionel.
Yes, there's an old cliche that says, if you give a man a fish, he eats for the day. If you teach him how to fish, he eats for the rest of his life. Amen. And just like everybody has been saying, you have the enabler, you have the handicap. As parents, I believe our ultimate job is to make sure that our kids can survive when we die.
Amen.
Because it makes no sense that when we leave the earth, we are their alternate safety net. So when we leave the earth, they don't have a safety net no more. And if we didn't teach our kids how to survive in the wake of our death, we did our kids a disservice. So
Exactly.
we have to understand what this phrase means. As the fisherman, I'm teaching you something. So you need to learn the lesson so that you will always be able to feed yourself. And as that person on the other side, yes, I'm coming to you because I want to eat, but you're teaching me a valuable skill so that I would be able to survive. And if I don't learn this lesson, when I find myself with no more teachers, I'm going to be in trouble. So we have to understand, as everybody's been saying, we can't cripple people by holding literal crutches underneath them. We can't have the safety nets underneath them. We can't enable people for the different things that they are going through. Sometimes, like the Bible said, what the truth shall set you free, or the truth shall, I forget how the words are, the truth shall make you free. It doesn't say the truth don't hurt.
That's right.
The truth hurts. When somebody tells you the truth, it hurts. But if they tell you a lie, you can be comforted at that moment. But then when you find out the truth later, you're still going to be hurt. But even if they told you the truth right there, you still hurt, you still mad. So sometimes people will lie simply because they don't want to hurt the person at that particular moment, but you're still not doing the person a service, because once they find out the truth, they're still going to be hurt anyway. So that tough love is to be able to tell that person the truth, even though they're going to get hurt, even though they're not going to like you for telling it. It's trying to teach them that lesson, even though they're not going to like you for it. Like I didn't like English in college when I took English, because I ended up getting the head of the professor. So we had to write a paper for back in the 70s. But guess what? He was looking for us to go back and study how people talked in the 70s. You can't write a 70s papers using 90s lingo. He didn't accept that. So he could have accepted it, but to teach you how to research and how to hone your craft is, if I give you an assignment, then you need to learn everything about that assignment and then present it. Don't half present me something. If I told you to study the 70s, study the 70s. If I told you to study the 80s, then study the 80s and bring me only what happened in that timeline. Don't give me movies from the 90s or songs from the 90s. Give me everything from where I told you that I wanted you at. So we, as everybody was saying, we have to understand our job is to teach and to tell the truth and be honest. And sometimes that's not easy. It is very tough to do it. Definitely when you're doing it for somebody that you love and you don't want to see them hurt.
Yep. Because that's really in a nutshell of what we have to realize with all three questions, is that it's up to, number one, the person's mentality themselves to realize that at a certain point, it's like, hold up, what I've been doing all this time is not really love. But they have to get to that point. They have to get to the point where they realize that, hold up, you love me so much that you're going to let me fall. Wow, that's a crazy concept. But in that, I end up with a terminal illness. And because of this illness, now I can actually receive love and give love. It's all in the mindset. Because our final point is this: even though it seems bad, it's still love. Let that sink in. Even though it seems bad, it's still love. Hebrews 12:6 says this: for whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. Meaning, I love you so much that I'm going to whoop you. All right? I'm going to whoop you with few stripes, or I'm going to whoop you with many stripes. And we got to realize that that's the reason why if he did not love you, he would not whoop you. All right. He would not put us in or allow us to be in the situations that we're in. We're in it because he loves us that much. He loves us that much. And besides that, like we had alluded to already, we have to learn the situation. We have to learn from the situation. If we keep getting pulled out of whatever it is, all right, and getting saved from it, we will never know how to deal with it when it comes back, because we never learned while we were in it. We never learned how to survive. We never learned how to fish. We never learned how to say, you know what? That's what my mama and my daddy did. That's how they showed each other love. That don't really sound like what God is showing. So let me figure out and let me pray and ask God to show me what real love is. Because I'm searching for a real love. Someone set my heart free, real love. Okay, I'm sorry, I just tripped back for a minute. So you also got to realize in Romans 8:28 that we got to realize this. And we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Everything, there is a reason, there is a purpose to every single thing that we go through, everything that we're dealing with. There is a purpose. Even in the pandemic, there is a purpose to the pandemic. Even to, dealing with abusive relationships, there is a purpose. To dealing with being on drugs, all of it, to tough love, there is a purpose. Because I want to remind us this, that even though, we say that I love you and, this, that, and the other, but do we really love the person? Do we really love ourselves? Because if we really love ourselves, if we really love the person, then we're going to go through what we got to go through. And we're going to end up realizing and learning the lesson while we are in it. Because we can't just skirt through every single thing in life. There is a reason, there is a purpose to everything that's going on in our life. We just have to see it and we have to realize it. Because like we have already stated, if we don't really know what love is, you're not going to be able to show it. You're not going to be able to receive it. That's your norm. But let me tell you something. There is a better way. There is a better way. There is a better way. You may feel like that is normal to you because that's what you grew up with. But I want to let you know, and as you've already heard from several one of us on tonight, that there is a better way. You just have to make up in your mind that I want it to be a better way. I see how my mother ended up. I see how my grandmother ended up. I see how my dad ended up. I see how my grandfather ended up. I want to have a better life. I got to have a better life. And I can't get stuck in the same predicament. I can't. But you have to make up in your mind as to whether or not you're going to get out of it. And if you're going to deal with it. Because in closing, and I do mean closing, we cannot truly love someone if we do not know how to properly love ourselves. We cannot think that we are in love or show love when we do not know what love is. We say that we love someone, but we do not really mean what we say. We say that we are in love with ministry and we are all in. But when the rubber meets the road, when things get difficult, sometimes we end up leaving. We say that we are dedicated and that we are in it for the long haul. But at the slightest moment of difficulty, we are gone with the wind. Or if not that, we end up acting out of character, as it was alluded to earlier, end up pulling something out of somebody because we want the love that we think is love, when in actuality it's not love. Because we want them to rock us upside the head. We want them to curse us out. We want them to do that because that's what we feel is love. That is not love. That is not love. We have to get to the place where we know and love ourselves. And then we will be able to love others because we know our love language, but we also will know their language because we can hear them speak, because we can hear ourselves. Let me say that last part again, because that was a whole mouthful. We have to get to the place where we know and love ourselves, and then we will be able to love others because we know our love language, but we also know their language because we can hear them speak, because we can hear ourselves. And sometimes we can't hear others because we can't hear ourselves. So let me remind everybody, whether you're watching this now or watching this later on, that you can get out of the situation that you're in. But it's up to you. It's up to you. We can tell you, we can model it in front of you. You may have been dealing with this pandemic. You may have been getting, whatever type of abuse that you've been getting during this pandemic. But you know what? That's not love. That's not love. I'm not going to tell you, let me see. I'm not going to tell you that what you think is love, and I'm going to just be me. What you think is love is not love. And just put it that way. You can just look at the end results of it. You can look at the end result. And I'm here to let you know that Jesus Christ loves you regardless. And with that type of love, yeah, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel new. It's going to feel different. But it's real, it's pure, and it doesn't harm you. It only makes you better. It only makes you wiser. So don't accept any old thing from any old body and you think that it's love, because in actuality, it's not. You got to look at your own mindset. You got to make a change in your mind. You got to make a change in your mind. And you make a change in your mind, it'll make a change in your whole outlook of everything. Change in everything. And you thought you was living before? Nah, you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. Listen, like we have stated on many times on our broadcast, our live stream, you can call here at the Tabernacle, 732-988-1816. And we will talk to you. We will minister to you. If you need that help, listen, call here. We'll get the message and we will call you back, because we love you and we want you to live in abundant love.
Amen.
We want you to live in abundance of love. We don't want you to have to deal with all the other stuff that people say is love when in actuality is not. So my name is Pastor Lamont Brown. I'm the pastor of Faith Baptist Tabernacle here in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where we are evangelizing to the family while building disciples. Just want to remind you of this one thing.